Welcome to today's video. I kind of gave you a preview of what you could expect in this video. I just wanted to make kind of an overview of this car, kind of my experiences with it, both how it's held up to my expectations and then maybe kind of like a generalization of it as a car, as a, I don't know, not necessarily reviewing it, but comparing it to other stuff that I've driven and like what I would think of this car if I were the average Porsche owner. But regardless, we're not gonna be going too crazy. I've got a trunk full of stuff. The car's full of a ton of stuff because I gotta go to the airport. So I'm loading this thing up with as much stuff as I can. But before I head out, I wanted to give a massive congratulations to Joshua, who is 18 years old from St. Louis, Missouri, for winning the Supra. I apologize it's always taking me so long to announce the giveaway winners. The problem is once the sweepstakes company picks the actual winner, they need to be contacted and fill out a bunch of paperwork before I can actually release their name and information. So although he was notified on Friday, I haven't been able to tell you guys until today. But you may have already seen that on my Instagram. I want to thank all of you guys again, each and every one of you who entered. I hope you guys like the content. I for sure liked getting to play with a Supra. And I hope you like the merch you guys got. But anyway, let's go on a drive. So this video is going to kind of be a challenging video for me, just because there's so much that I want to talk to you guys about. And I don't really have any sort of structure or script or way to remember everything that I want to touch upon. So I figure first off, I'll kind of give a backstory of how this car came about. It's weird, I can't talk over the exhaust note, I need to just cherish it. So Matt Mormon was the first person that ever gave me a ride in a GT3. Before that, I was definitely a GT3 fan just because of the fact that it was one of the few cars that you could get that was an out-of-the-box race car. Obviously, it's a finished race car, but I always thought it was very cool that you could buy a car from a manufacturer that you could beat the crap out of at a track that would hold together and require very, very little maintenance. So the allure of the GT3 was very much so that it was this pinnacle, this car that was very hard to get because, long story, but it's very difficult to order one of these new if you want to try to and you've never bought a Porsche before. They try to make it very exclusive. So that allure, plus the fact that it was an out-of-the-box race car, plus the fact that if you speak to anyone, this is pretty much considered, out of all the new cars that are out, this is usually the #1 driver's car in its class at least. So I will tell you right now, I've driven Ferraris, I've driven Lamborghinis, I've driven other sports cars. There's still nothing that compares to this. Is it everything that I always hoped for? I think the important thing to note, I didn't get this car because I thought it was going to be the most fun car I ever owned. For me, it was very much so a goal, very much so something that I was working towards, and getting one was more so as a identifying factor that I reached that goal rather than this massive enjoyment that I'm going to get. And mind you, I've had a blast with this car driving in the mountains and stuff, but this is one of the very few purchases I've made purely for my enjoyment and not as a tool to make income on YouTube. And that's not saying that every car I buy on YouTube is purely for income. It's just a lot of the cars that I get so cheap that I'm able to make a very big return on my investment. We've got a little bit of open road, so I'm going to have some fun. Exhaust isn't even open. Experience driving this car. Man, that hat flying around is gonna annoy me. It's not really like anything else, and I say that in the sense that it's so perfect and it's so well put together and well designed that it's not very exciting. For me to have a blast driving this car, I need to go way faster than all my other cars, and that kind of ruins the experience a little bit for me. Driving around town, it's not the best just because it's not a turbo car, so it doesn't feel zippy, it doesn't feel fast. But when this car really shines is when you start pushing it past that 80% mark. Right now, I'm probably driving at, say, 50% of its capability. To drive at 100%, we gotta be going out to red line, slamming on the brakes. So, I mean, one of the things with these cars is the brakes. I mean, honestly, they kind of get me sometimes because they're not like brakes in other cars where you actually do have to kind of lay into them. For a new car, it's very much so where you're very connected. I'd say more so than a lot of other new cars, unless you're talking about a bare bones race car. For a car that it's as polished as it is, the fact that you can feel every little bump in the road, the fact that you really have to lay into the brakes and the throttle response is as good as it is really impressive. But as I was saying, to drive this thing at 80+%, there's a very big problem. What you guys need to understand, and you know, you learn this and you understand this if it's ever happened to you. You can't treat roads like a racetrack because car's capability, and you hit one bump that upsets the car, that's going to make your tires weightless, and that could send you into a guardrail. So unless you know every little bump on a road like the back of your hand, it's very, very dangerous. You know, racetracks are designed to not have bumps like that are going to unsettle you in the middle of a corner. But on the street, there's a lot of things like that, so you can't really push cars to their max. And I'm very, very thankful that I've been able to track this car as much as I have to actually experience this car at closer than 90% or even using 100% of what it's capable of. I will say one of the biggest letdowns with this car is kind of a funny one. My idea was when I got this car that it was going to be somewhat of a sleeper, because to the average person I thought this would just be a Porsche with a spoiler. And where that's true for a lot of people, I think having a neon orange Porsche with a giant wing attracts a bit more attention than I originally planned on. As I go by and a bunch of people stare at the loud neon orange Porsche. But can't talk over the exhaust note, it's rude. It's just so fun. And having a rear engine is a very different experience, in that it's kind of like my all-wheel drive Evo, where the traction and the way that it comes out of corners, you can get on the throttle a lot earlier. So every time I drive this car, I kind of need to relearn how to drive it. It's very weird. Going back to what I was saying, definitely not as much of a sleeper as I originally wanted, and I feel like the looks that I get are more like, who the heck is this rich kid? And I don't really like that. I don't know, I would rather be seen in my like built old Japanese cars, because for me that like is a better representation of all the hard work I've done. Where this car is a very big representation of how hard I've worked in my life. It's nothing to the average person who usually doesn't expect that, especially with a young kid like me. Not that I'm that young, but I don't know. I don't like getting those type of looks, and I kind of like feel embarrassed if I pull up to a crowded place with this car. It sounds very weird. I know that I should be proud, and I don't know. I'm as weird as it sounds with the cars that I have. I'm not a big fan of attention. You guys that have been around for a while know I'm kind of shy, and I don't like. I don't know. I don't like social interactions. It's just kind of a thing. I feel like that's actually a common thing with YouTubers, because even though we put our life out there and like we talk with you guys all the time, we're kind of like hermits in our own little world. So definitely not a sleeper. What did you think? I will say one thing that's cool though. So I got the lava orange with the expectation that it wouldn't be a very popular color, because it was actually the launch color of the previous generation, where they made more orange than any other color. So I expected everyone would order the lizard green, which was the color that they were really pushing, because they were offering all the lizard green options like rims and all that weird stuff. So I got the lava orange expecting that not that many people would order it, and wouldn't you know, out of 1,500 cars produced in the US, I'm rounding, it's like 1,473 or something like that, there are, I believe, 17 lava orange cars, which is something like 1%, versus, let's say, 400 plus lizard green cars. So I really wanted to paint the sample car, and I had a paint to sample allocation, which is basically you get to paint the car in any color that you want, so long as Porsche approves it. Makes the cars much more rare, much more valuable. I didn't get paint to sample, but I did wind up with the most rare factory option color. So happy about that. I love how the car looks. I still love driving it. I definitely was ruined a little bit by that one incident I had where someone hit the spoiler in a parking lot. If you guys are familiar with that, someone backed into me in a Starbucks parking lot, I found out after the fact, and was never able to track them down. We don't want to spend $20,000 on a new truck. I'm scared to make an insurance claim because it's going to make my insurance rates for all of my 18 plus cars go up. And it's just been a bummer. It made me not really want to drive the car a lot of places where I used to drive it before. People used to think I was crazy because I would just take this to the supermarket, park it with zero cares in the world, and now I understand why they thought I was crazy. Because people suck. It's definitely been a cool experience working on this car. I've definitely enjoyed modding it just because of how well designed this car is and easily serviceable. A lot of people ask me questions about, you know, warranty and maintenance and all that stuff being super expensive. Again, the beauty of these cars, you can own them for 5 years and do nothing about oil changes and change the intake filter. They're that simple. They don't really require much. I've put 4,500 miles in about 6 or 7, maybe 8 months. We're getting definitely closer to the year mark. That's, I'd say, more than the average person. The game with these cars, usually people will own them for, I mean, I don't know, until the next generation comes out, put somewhere under 10,000 miles on them, and then usually sell them for what they paid for them. I think that's kind of the key with these cars. I would not say that this car is worth what I paid to me, in the sense that even though I paid sticker price, I don't see the value of the actual dollar sign, but the fact that I can drive it around and then flip it for pretty much exactly what I paid makes you kind of ignore that super high barrier to entry of the enormous price. Mods, if you're not familiar with this car, I did, you know, header, exhaust, did I do anything else? I did a cage. You don't really lower these cars. The suspension's great. They actually have factory coilovers if you wanted to lower them. I never did wheels. I tried to order a set, but I was too late. They stopped making the ones that I wanted. And I got it all corrected and, you know, ceramic coated and clear brad. I'm gonna need to get some touch-ups on the clear bra. I hate the windshield film that I did. It's like all chipped and stuff and kind of looks, well, I guess it's better than the windshield, but it looks hazy and it's got like little air bubbles in it and it drives me nuts. So that's definitely something that I need to sort out. But overall, I've definitely enjoyed owning the car. I love looking at it. I love kind of like what it stands for me. I told you guys I would kind of give this a car review as an outsider, in the sense that I feel like your average person that buys these cars are, let's say, a doctor or a well-established dude in his profession in his 40s who does go to the occasional track day, because this is not a car for your dude that's going to complain about his back. The bucket seats are aggressive. The suspension is very bumpy. It's very good, but this is 100% a race car. You know, I had the experience with the 911 Turbo that I got to borrow from Jordan from Arcade Tunes, and that was a much more suitable car to an old dude that doesn't really care about racing. This is a car for an old guy that's going to take it to the racetrack, that's going to beat the crap out of it and going to enjoy it. And I think that you guys understand that if you've seen any of my videos from the Smoky Mountains, where all those guys are constantly getting it. So that was one reason why I didn't want to get a used GT3RS and I wanted to get a new one, because these cars get that crap beat out of them. Yes, they can take it, but I don't want someone else's car that's been beat on. So if I were an old guy that hopped in this car that didn't really know what I was getting into, I would probably complain that the gearing's too short, where on the highway, if you are trying to do like 80, you're cruising almost at 4 grand. Now, I could be off a little bit by this, but I know I'm constantly on the highway just searching for that next gear. The Supra was really good about that, because the 8-speed had a very, very tall final gear, and it made it very, very easy for cruising at high speed. This car is bumpy. You can definitely feel the speed. The Supra, I'll do 120, feels like nothing. This car, I'm doing 100 and I'm looking down at the speedometer like, holy crap, how fast am I going? Although it's super planted, the suspension is so rigid on this car, and I mean, it's really stiff, for the sense that like you can feel every single little bump, and it's good. But I'm speaking as if I was an old guy that just picked one of these up. So with all that in mind, I think that if I were an old guy that hopped in this not knowing what it was, I would probably complain. And I've mentioned this before because I'm baffled every time I drive it at how bumpy and rigid this production car is. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. This road right here, I'm about to go on a road called Cascade Road. This is for the locals. If you've ever been in this area, I think this is New Milford, probably one of the worst roads. It was so bumpy. It's one of the only roads I've ever gone on. Oh God, road work. Where I thought that I destroyed my oil pan on my Evo. There were such big potholes that it would just destroy a car. They were like craters. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that it has been freshly repaved. Apparently now they're hay baling and putting stuff on the side of it. This was going to be one of my spirited roads, but it's not going to be anymore. I don't know where I was going with that. I get distracted by the exhaust noises. So anyway, old guy. Back to the old guy that's driving one of these things around. Gearing's kind of short. It's kind of bumpy. And I don't know, the bucket seats are very like obnoxious getting in and out. Definitely not the best daily driver. But they kind of designed these cars knowing that a lot of these old guys are going to take them kind of on touring trips, in the sense that, you know, you can get them optioned with an extended range gas tank. I think it's a 24-gallon gas tank, so you can actually go a decent distance with this car versus if you had a super lightweight gas tank. And interestingly enough, I find that the more gas I have in the car, the better it kind of feels, because it puts some more weight over the front wheels, and it actually makes it feel a little bit more planted and a little bit more confidence inspiring. Whenever I go to the track, it's one of the few cars that I will purposely fill to the brim, because it makes the car a little bit less understeery. stuff off. Overall though, I would say I'm very happy with the car. I don't know if this is gonna be one of those cars that I keep forever, or if I will follow that route and, you know, trade it in and keep moving up. I don't think that I'm gonna modify it anymore. I mean, even out of the box, these cars are so perfect. Maybe I would do the Dundon intake setup that I think sees like another 15 to 20 wheel gain. It's a lot on an NA car. I think that would put this car closer to actually 500 wheel horsepower, where right now I think it's probably closer to 480. I am now realizing that I think I made a wrong turn because I don't recognize where I am. That's cool. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm gonna come out where I think I'm gonna come out. I'm not sure if this wind noise is just going to be terrible, but I figure I'll do one pull for you guys at full tilt. It definitely sounds great. Could it be louder? Probably. Would I want it louder? Probably not. I think the most enjoyment I get out of this car has honestly been, you know, kind of going out to a nice dinner. That sounds so stupid. Stuff like that, just like excuses to go drive it. I hate putting miles on it if there isn't really a purpose, or if I'm driving on like crappy highways and stuff. But having this car up in Connecticut has been such a blessing, getting to actually enjoy it on back roads. In Florida, it feels like such a waste just going from stoplight to stoplight. I feel like there's so much that I should be talking about with this car, and I'm gonna leave out so much, but I feel like I've hit a lot of the main points. So I am going to continue this kind of into a vlog at the shop. We're not really doing that much around there, but I just kind of wanted to wrap this up with just acknowledging how unbelievably appreciative I am that I've been able to get my top dog, my pinnacle dream car at, did I get it at 23 or 24? I think I got it at 24. But that feeling and being able to say that I own this car and know that I own it and look at it in my garage is the most unreal feeling, and I would not be able to do that without the support of each and every one of you. I don't acknowledge it enough, but I do appreciate you guys and allowing me to do all the crazy stuff that I do with cars. And that's very much so the truth. There is no car above this for me. There is no next car after the GT3RS. I don't want a GT2RS. I don't want some absurd Bugatti, Lamborghini bull crap. I love this car. I don't think there's anything more that I want than this in this supercar, exotic car, whatever you want to call it, ladder. Surely there's going to be some JDM legends that are going to be popping up in the next couple of years or so in my garage. But this is the one for me. This is the car. This is the thing that I get in, and every single time I relearn how to drive it, and I'm baffled that Porsche was able to design such an amazing car that is so exciting yet so unappealing because it's such a video game where you can't get away with murder. But anyway, I think I'm gonna wrap that up for the Porsche thing, unless I think of some other stuff. But I'm gonna go get some coffee and a breakfast sandwich because I'm starving. I guess a couple other quick notes that I thought of with the car that I can kind of talk about. I'm very, very, very happy that I waited the extra time that it took to do the deviated stitching. So with Porsche, it's something absurd. I don't remember if I paid like 10 grand to do this. It sounded so ridiculous and I almost didn't do it. But to do the stitching in the same color as a car as opposed to silver, it took like an extra couple months and it cost all this money. But it's honestly one of my favorite things about the interior is seeing like the little orange logos and all the orange stitching. So I'm very happy I did that. Another thing, I already knew this because of Matt Moorman's last car that he had subwoofers in. The stock speakers aren't the best. They don't really have much bass, but I mean, we're talking about a lightweight race car, so you wouldn't expect them to have the craziest speakers. But it's just kind of those little things that like you don't really think about until you kind of get used to them, and I don't know. It's a very, very cool car. Don't take any of this as complaints. Just kind of talking about the stuff that I feel like a lot of people don't mention just because they're always like, oh yeah, this is the best car ever. It's a sick car on the track, but they don't talk about the little dumb creature comforts and all that stuff. So these have actually been done for quite a bit now, but I haven't had the time to go get them. The missing link of my Evo, the Ganadors. So B-Hall painted these for me and I had to go over to Wallingford to go grab them. But let's see, how's the color? How did B-Hall do?
A little whiter, but it's okay.
I mean, my car's dirty right now.
Yeah.
But looks pretty dang close.
How's it look on the camera?
I don't
know how to get it at the same angle as the door.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit wider, but I think it's pretty dang close.
You took them all apart and stuff?
Yeah. One of the best things about Ganadors, like, I feel like a lot of people don't understand this. Did you mention this in a video where you were explaining to someone in person?
I was explaining the other day.
How good of quality they are for mirrors. They're better than OEM.
They're better than stock.
A lot of times, like, the aftermarket mirrors and stuff will just kind of be, like, junk and cheap. But the Ganadors, you have to think how crazy it is that they made an aluminum casting, or however they made these.
Yeah, it's a casting.
With the factory wiring in it to just integrate with factory power mirrors.
It's crazy.
I mean, it makes sense why they're so expensive. I wonder, do you know what they cost new back in the day?
Yeah, they were like only like $400.
Really?
Yeah. You have to go lower, I think.
Looks like this trim kind of got.
Yeah, you covered it anyway.
Okay, yeah, cool. But that's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, I can. What was I gonna show?
We probably have a lot of Ganondors between the two of us to this shop.
Yeah, there's. So these are my stock GTR mirrors. It's not too bad, but like this play drives me insane. And then, so here's some FD stock mirrors. They're not bad. And the Ganondors. Metal base. I have a set off actually. And they say the chassis code, if you're ever buying these, printed in it. Oh, FD3S. So don't mess up like Adam. What'd you buy Ganondors for by accident?
Yeah, someone please buy these for me. I think they're DC5.
Yeah, they are DC5.
I bought them off Yahoo Auction in Japan, and they were listed as Evo 5. And I spent a lot of money on them, and then got these from the guy that I bought my Evo from. He had them laying around. These ones I paid $450 for, steel, unreal deal. The other ones that I bought for the DC5 Integra, $1,400.
Which is more realistic of the prices of what Ganondors are. 400.
Honestly, like, I see them now going for anywhere from $1,000 to $1,400.
Right.
I haven't seen them under $1,000.
This dude just probably because he didn't have the car anymore and didn't know anyone with the Evo 5 was like, I'll never sell these.
And I'd like to think too that he appreciated what I did with his car and how nice.
He's so appreciative that he sold you a set of mirrors for
the guy that used
a third.
Sick. He like tunes race cars like.
Oh really?
A professional like Porsche team. Like he's been trying to. He wants to tune my stuff. Like he wants to tune my Porsche, put it on the 85.
Oh, you talk to him still?
Yeah. No, the dude's like good. He's sick. He's
That's
got a
wild.
purple GT3RS.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. I can't wait to see you close the door.
It's gonna look sick. I gotta put the trim.
I'm ready. And there you have it, a Ganondor.
How's it
Oh, it looks good.
I feel like the first time I got Ganondors, like I didn't like them and they took a while to grow on me. Yo, but okay, from the front angle though, with all the other like stuff.
Oh yeah.
I still need to make, I wanna, remember I stole that piece of signboard? I wanna make kind of like a little delete for this stuff.
Yep.
I thought about like
Wait, I thought I gave you that thing.
No, you took it back.
I never did.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I think it's over there somewhere. We'll find
Anyway, I wanted to basically put some sort of like white piece here just to get rid of this ugliness because I think it'd be kind of difficult to fill and it might look weirder than just putting like a little plate here. One more thing that I realized I forgot to mention, I was a little bit torn when I got this car because they did re-release the GT3 in a manual version. Not the RS, but they did release the GT3 in a manual version. If you're not familiar, the GT3 is very, very similar to the RS. Usually makes a little bit less power. Doesn't have the wide, cool fenders. I think it's a little bit narrower overall. It's a little bit less race car. It doesn't have the same wing. Has a little bit less downforce. Actually faster in a quarter mile because it has less downforce, but not as much of a monster on the track. So the PDK, the paddle shifters, I was kind of like worried that I might not be a fan at first, but my thing is I have so many manual cars. I was like, I kind of want a PDK car. And out of all the different cars with dual clutch transmissions and stuff, there is nothing that shifts like this car. I drove the 911 Turbo that has PDK that I assumed would be very similar, not even close to how good it is in this car. It is just so unbelievably responsive that it's downshifting like practically before you touch it. It's shifting up the second you touch it. It feels so seamless. I think video games feel less seamless than this car. It's a rad feeling, and for the track, it's kind of, you can't touch it. You can be shifting mid-corner and it doesn't upset the balance of the car. Would manual make a car a little bit more fun to drive? Maybe, but it wouldn't be that same GT3RS experience that I wanted. So anyway, this is officially the last video in Connecticut for questionably a lot of months. I'm taking all my cars down today. Tommy and Pat from Florida are coming up in the toter home, taking the Skyline and the Evo in the toter home and the side-by-side, and the Porsche's going in the black trailer. All the cars are going down to Florida. Gonna get them all super dialed in for the open house. It's gonna be the first time all my cars have ever been in one spot. We might even have a couple other new cars by the time that goes, some other new builds being revealed. It's gonna be a crazy end of the year. I'm going on my last chill trip to Australia and Japan and then when I get back, it's gonna be nuts. So hope you guys are stoked for that. Thank you for bearing with me over this slow period while I kind of get prepared for all the stuff being moved down and my super long trips overseas. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little video kind of touching base on the Porsche, and I hope I see you guys soon. So thank you, and make sure you follow me on Instagram because I'll be posting lots of stuff there when I can't get around to posting on YouTube, since I know the Australia events are kind of in the middle of nowhere. But thank you, and I'll see you soon.